Hi guys, it's ProdigyRex here, back from another video, and today we will be reading Lunch Money Chapter 8. So let's begin. Lunch Money Chapter 8, 2 down. When Greg got to Mr. Z's room after school, no one else was there, so he sat down. He looked around at the clock. It was only 3:05. Greg thought, 6 minutes. If he's not here in 6 minutes, I'm going to soccer. A minute later, Ma burst into the room. Sorry, I know I'm late, but Then she saw only Greg was there. She stopped and then walked to the front of the room. I thought I was late. You are late, Greg said. He jerked the thumb towards Mr. Z's just not as late. He is. Ma sat down a few seats away and turned to look out the window. A minute went by. The empty school felt too quiet for Greg. He said, so what do you want to talk to us about anyway? Without turning her head, Mara said, 3 guesses. Right, said Greg. Then she remembered what she had said about his comic book. I was okay, but Greg wanted Mara to finish that sentence. Then she thought, what do I care what she thinks? But another minute, his curiosity went out. Still, he did not want Mara to think she actually cared about what he thought. Then he hit up to bring up the subject. Greg said, I read your Union Cook. It was good for what it is. Mar turned her face, arching one of her pale eyebrows. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing, said Greg. It's not really my kind of story, you know, princesses and unicorns. I like comic books, and your book isn't coming. So why'd you read it? Greg shrugged. It was the only reading material I had in the nurse's office. I was bored. How come you read my story? Mara tossed her head. Same reason. There wasn't anything better to do in math. But you bought a copy of mine, and you said it was good, right? Yeah, Mara admitted, but that's what Greg had been waiting for. But what? What didn't you like about it? Mara was quiet for a moment, and when she spoke again, Greg saw she was choosing her words carefully. Well, it's sort of like what you said about not being your kind of comic book. You see, I know you want to try to sell a lot of copies. Greg interrupted, but because you think I'm a greedy little money grabber, right? Mara's eyes flashed. Can you just listen? Greg nodded and Mara continued. I like this story and I like the artwork too, but I don't think many other girls would. Right? And since half the kids at school are girls, and if you write boy stories, you're going to only sell half as many books as you could. Greg pretended to look shocked, and then she shook a finger at Mara. Boy stories? I'm going to tell Mrs. Sanborn what you said. Mrs. Sanborn was their social studies teacher, and she talked about a lot of equal rights for women and girls. She got furious when someone suggested that men and women, or boys and girls, should be treated differently. Greg said, don't be dumb. Mara said, don't be dumb. I'm not talking about equal rights. I'm just talking what girls like, and boys. And no matter what Mrs. Sanborn says, most boys don't pick stories about princesses, and most girls don't pick stories about cavemen with spears. As Mara finished that sentence, Mr. Z walked in. Cavemen with spears? Are you two calling each other names again? Mara and Greg shook their heads. Mr. Z, good. I was the lady in the office. I was afraid I'd find you here, wrestling on the floor and throwing chairs at each other. But looks like you're not name-calling and not fighting. Looks like progress. He pulled a broke chair down from a few feet, turned around the first midway between them. Mr. Z had been planning what he would say to Greg and Mara all afternoon, after he knew exactly what he wanted this meeting to end up to. But he was prepared to take his time getting there. In his mind, it was like a math problem. He had to add the right idea, subtract the wrong one, divide by thinking by pure logic, and then the children would nod and smile at each other, and peace would understand would multiply itself. Looking first into Mara's face and then into Greg's, Mr. Z said, now tell me precisely what started this mess during 6th period. Greg, you first. Greg took a deep breath and then let it out slowly. Well, it really started at the end of lunch period. That's when I found out Mara was selling little books like mine, ripping me off. I did not rip you off, Mara. Mrs. Z raised a warning finger. Quiet, your turn is coming. Mara nodded, but kept going. He just sat a minute ago that his story is nothing. My story is nothing like his. Yeah, said Greg, his voice raising. It's still a mini book, right? A minute. You ripped me off. Quiet, both of you. Mr. Z was not used to raising his voice. I'm not going to put up with this. If you two can't talk it out with me, I'm going to... guys, if you guys can't talk it over with me, I'm going to put the whole matter to Mrs. Danforth and your parents. He held back to Mara and Greg and then said again, is that clear? Now, I asked Greg to speak first. Mara, not another word. Turning to Greg, he said, so you found out Mara had these booklets for sale and you got mad? Anything else? Well, said Greg, this team fails. My idea. So yeah, I got mad and I came class that way and you saw the rest. And that's all. Well, Mr. Z nodded to Greg and said, okay, now it's your turn to listen. Not a word. Turning to Mara, he said, let's hear your side. Mara shrugged. There's not much to tell. What do? I was sitting here in class and he was blasting and shouting stuff in my face and me hitting him. That was accident. He said so himself to the nurse. So I didn't do anything. Graham put the puff of water between his lips. Not a word, but close enough to draw a glare from the math teacher. Mr. Z turned back to Mara. Show me your little book. Do you have one? Mara unzipped the pocket of her backpack, pulled out a copy of The Last Unicorn. Handing it over to Mr. Z, he quickly turned the pages, scanning the text through the pictures. Then turning to Greg, he said, how about yours? Greg took a copy from his pencil case and handed it over. Mr. Z did a skim. It looked like crayon face to Greg. He said, so these are two very different items and you're still mad that Mara did something similar, right? You used the same idea. Greg nodded. Right, my idea. Looking into Greg's eye, Mr. Z said, you do agree with me that a little book with pictures is an idea? Yes, of course. Like I said, it was my idea. Mr. Z shook his head. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm saying a little book with pictures is an idea, not that it's your idea. Then holding both middle books, his thumb and index finger, he said, these two are very different items, but still one idea, right? Greg nodded. Right, the idea was mine first. Mr. Z leaned first, but the thing about a real idea that no one can truly own it, even the person who uses it first. In mathematics, the Sumerians were the first to use the idea of place value over 5,000 years ago, but they did not own the idea. And when you're in here sitting in class learning large number scale, you carry the tens or hundreds into the next place of value. So does a Sumerian come running into room and say, hey, quit it, that's my idea? Greg didn't answer. He lowered his eyes and he stared at a smear of green gum on the floor. Mr. Z went on. Now, if Mara had used your character, this crayon guy, or if she made you drive ugly years, I think you have more reason to be upset. But she didn't do that. She made her own book in her little way. And yes, she might have seen you do it first, but that's how the boy ideas work. They spread. So I don't think you should be mad at Mara. If anything, you should feel flattered. Someone thought a way to make a new idea. It's so interesting that she wanted to try it out for herself. Mrs. Z potted. Greg looked at her face, studying his sneakers. He decided to let Mr. Frizzyhead talk himself out. Why argue? The sooner this guy's finished yakking, the sooner he can leave for soccer practice. Then look at me, Greg. Greg tipped his head back, looked at his teacher's face, and then turned back to the floor. The math teacher said, is that anything making sense to you, Greg? Sure, I guess so. And think this adds up to all one thing. Mrs. Z paused, waiting for Greg to look him in the face. It didn't happen, so he said, Greg, you need to apologize tomorrow. Greg jerked his head up. Apologize me? No way. Mara knew how stubborn Greg was and how he liked before the teacher arrived. She quickly said, it's okay, Mr. Z, he doesn't have to apologize. Miss Z said, yes, he does. First he needs to apologize for you, then he has to apologize to me for making a huge disturbance in my last room and wasting precious class time, and all because of a comic book. Greg felt the fury rising in his chest. He wanted turn his head back and howl like Creon. He wanted to get close up to this man's huge nose and shout, "I'm the guy with the black eye here. I'm the guy who had the idea ripped off. Apologize? That's so stupid." "No, actually, you're stupid." Greg his face turned red and felt his heart pounding. And then for the second time in one day, Greg felt his nose begin to bleed. Only this time it was a real gushing, but streamed out of his knuckles, over his lips, and dripped onto the floor, spanning the desk and shirt. Mr. Z put one hand over his mouth and the other with his shaky finger. His eyes were, "Oh, your nose, it's," but he couldn't say the B word. Mr. Z's face went pale as paper. Sweat stood on his forehead, and between his hands covered his mouth and took deep grasps. Earlier, Greg hadn't noticed Mr. Z's reaction, but this time he couldn't miss it, and he decided to enjoy it. Greg leaned forward and nodded at Mr. Z, making no effort to stop the blood. For yes, my nose is very bloody. It's bleeding, and bloody is going all over the place. Bloody blood. Mr. Z turned away, almost throwing up. "Greg!" snapped Mark. "Stop it! That's mean!" She had already grabbed the tissues from the teacher box here and pulled them over to Greg's hands. And turning to Mr. Z, she said, "Can I get you something? Some water?" Mrs. Z shook her head. "I just need to lie down." And Mark stared on him. He eased himself off the desk and onto the floor, and flat on the back, eyes closed. "Now," Mars said to Greg, "sit on your nose and sit on the floor and lean forward and squeeze your nose hard." Greg followed orders, but he decided he would be more comfortable lying down. Mars said, "I'll get the nurse a cold pack, 2 cold packs," and Mr. Z left Miss Greg and Mr. Z littering the room of room 27. And that's the end of chapter 8. Hope you enjoy, and smash the subscribe button and ring that notification bell. Have a good day. Bye.